Good afternoon. My name is Thaden Gosson, and I'm here with a very special guest, Mr. Sid Hall. Thank you for being here. We're very happy that you chose to be part of this exciting project. So what?
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Um, what branch of the military were you in?
So I was in the Navy, served 33 years as a career supply officer. A supply officer is in charge of logistics, runs business. I think today it's known as supply chain. So I did everything from sourcing materials to staging and shipping and housing and distribution. So most of my career was surrounding that in some way.
Sounds really complicated.
Not when you get your hands on it.
Why did you choose the branch?
That's an interesting question. So I think originally I wanted to be in the Air Force, and they asked me, "Hey, what would you like to be?" And they didn't listen to me. They were like, "You get to be a desk person, or a desk person." And I just didn't feel like that was my calling in life. So I chose the Navy because the Navy essentially said, "Hey, you can do anything that you want to do." And at that time, computers were like as big as refrigerators. And they're like, "You get to be a computer technician," which really meant you fixed refrigerators. But that was kind of like my decision point. It's like, hey, I'm really going to go in the Navy. Also, I had a really, really cool counselor, guidance counselor that directed me toward the Navy. So I think, and I had a pastor at the time that was a former Navy chaplain. And so between those two major influences in my life and the fact that the Navy said you could pretty much do whatever you want, that's why I went to the Navy.
How did their inspirations change you while you were in the Navy? Like, did it encourage you?
Yeah, I like that word, inspiration, more than motivation, because motivation to me tends to be sort of in the moment.
Yeah.
But inspiration is sort of long lasting and drives you for a longer period of time. My chaplain, my pastor, saw something in me as a young man, and he said to me that the Navy will invest in good people. And that was inspirational to me because as a young person, do you really know what your worth really is until someone reinforces that in you and says, "Hey, I see something in you." And because of that, that inspired me to be the best that I could be, right? So I never settled for anything that came my way. I always looked for opportunities to go one step beyond what the expectation was. So yeah, absolutely. Good question.
Thank you. When did you serve?
Wow, so before you were born. I joined the Navy in 1982, December of 1982, December 22nd to be exact. And that was just before I graduated high school. My dad was sick. He later died January 17th of the following year. So it was a really difficult moment for me. But I knew that with my dad passing, I needed to make sure before he passed that I had a solid future. He knew that. My mom knew that, so I did feel a little bit of responsibility to make a decision in that moment. So 1982, before a lot of things that you know now existed.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thanks for saying.
Where did you serve?
Wow, that's a loaded question, right? Because the Navy is famous for shipping you around the world, right? So I started off in San Diego, lovely place. Anytime you get a chance to go there, highly recommend it. From there, I went to Key West, another great place, but not to spend a whole lot of time there because it's really hot. There's a lot of beaches. When you do that for a year straight, you kind of get bored of it. But from there, I went to California, another great place. So if you ever want to visit nice places, join the Navy. But from there, I went back to San Diego for officer training. Then I went to 5 years of university at University of Florida. Go Gators, ranked currently third NCAA, if you're following. And from there, it was just like a whirlwind. Went to school in Georgia, then I was on a submarine, went overseas, visited places like Greece and Spain
That's
and
so cool.
Gibraltar. Then went to Japan, stayed there for 6 years, and when I was in Japan, visited places like Australia and Guam and Singapore and
Wow.
Korea. So I have really seen a lot because of the Navy. I believe I've been on 4 of the 7 continents and enjoyed every moment of it. I would do it all over again if I had an opportunity.
Top 3 places.
Top 3. So Singapore is my absolute favorite, #1, hands down. Across the world, right? Go on a map and look. It's like halfway around the world, little place in between Malaysia and Indonesia, but they speak English. Not every country around the world will speak English and allow you to speak English, right? Some countries are like, if you don't speak my language, and so that I won't speak to you. France, for example. France is actually my #2. But Singapore, most rooftop gardens in the world. Like they have all these buildings and it looks like a real, like a city, but then you go on the roof, it's like a garden. It's like just tropical oasis. It's equatorial, so everything is green, everything is awesome and amazing. So Singapore #1, France #2, and this is actually gonna blow your mind because you probably know little about Gibraltar, the Rock of Gibraltar.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, so go YouTube when you go home, Prudential. There used to be an insurance company called Prudential. I don't even know if they're still around, but their symbol was the Rock of Gibraltar. So the Rock of Gibraltar sits in the Straits of Gibraltar between Spain and Africa, right? And so it's just a big giant rock. So not too much to see there so far, right? But during World War II, they hollowed out this rock to create 40 miles of tunnel, 2 hospitals,
Wow.
like a whole city. And we went with the Royal Air Force because the Brits now own it. And we toured the tunnels while we were there. I was just absolutely fascinated.
That sounds crazy.
I was
What?
like, holy smokes, like tunnels, like double wide of this room. It was just absolutely insane. And so just
Wow.
because of that experience, I just absolutely love, that was really etched in my
I can
mind.
see why.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, what was your job in the military?
Yeah, so I said before, I was
Yeah.
a supply officer, right? So my first tour was on a submarine. So I was responsible for all the food. I was responsible for all the parts to all of the machines, to all of the systems on the submarine. So I used to say, from periscopes to pencils, I'm your guy. So you can't run too far in a submarine. You only have 150 people on a submarine. You have the forward compartment, you have the aft compartment where the engine and the nuclear power plant is. So you can't run. If you mess things up, there's nowhere to go. So you're only as good as your last meal, and you're only as good as the last part delivered to the person that needed the system to be repaired. So just multiply that times, I don't know, 500. That was my job on the carrier.
Jeez.
I wasn't in charge of the food, but I was in charge of all of the repair parts. I think it was like 32,000 different parts I was responsible for, making sure that I knew where they were, how many we had, and if we didn't have it, how long it would take to get. Then when we went on deployments, like we left Japan and we would go to places like Australia and Thailand and all kinds of places. And I was responsible for making sure that all the things that we needed along the way were there. So it was a pretty demanding job, but it was pretty cool.
What were some of the reasons you joined the military?
Yeah, so
Well, you already went over
we
this,
talked
but-
about my guidance counselor and
Yeah.
my pastor, right? So I was, just an average teenager up until, 17. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go to college, and I think if a young person wants to go to college, then they automatically think, hey, my parents are going to help me, or I get a scholarship, or something like that. But then my dad died. I took the SATs, and I absolutely just rocked it. I don't think I made more points than just signing my name to the test. It was horrible. And so my guidance counselor, Mrs. Galloway, still remember her to this day. I said, so Mrs. Galloway, how did I do? And she said, well, Sydney, I don't think that you did well enough to get into the Naval Academy, but the Navy still will invest in you. And so between her and my pastor, it was, okay, this is fate. I'm supposed to go in, and I went through boot camp, and there was an officer's school that I applied for, but I pulled my application because I wanted to learn a little bit more about my job. Then I reapplied a couple of years later, and I got accepted. The rest is history.
What was can you tell me some memorable experiences during your services?
Yeah, so lots of them, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But one that really comes to mind was on the aircraft carrier. So when you think of aircraft carrier, you think aircraft, you think Top Gun, you think pilots, and they have all the fun, right? But when you're out in the middle of nowhere, right, you can't see land anywhere, the only way that you get things on that aircraft carrier when you need is either another ship pulls alongside you, gives you oil, gives you food, or you have helicopters landing on the deck, and those things get dropped down with big giant elevators, and then you go into the hangar bay, and then you move things all over the place. I remember like it was yesterday, we had a 400 pallet stores load of all kinds of things, parts and groceries, everything. So I tell my guys like, hey, this is your opportunity. This is our Top Gun. We don't get to fly off the deck, but we make sure that this ship is ready to do what the pilots need when they need to do it. So we had pallets coming up and down on elevators. We had pallets coming across on this little teeny tiny wire from a ship that was probably 200 yards away. So we're connected, and we're both floating along at the same time, and pallets are coming over, and we're telling, hey, this goes forward, this goes aft, put this here, stage that here. And the whole day, it might have taken 4 hours to get it done. But it was just probably one of the most fulfilling moments in my career, knowing that all that happened in part because of my direction. It was really cool.
What was the most challenging part of your time in the military?
Yeah, so back in those days, a guy that looks like me in a position that I was in, you didn't see too many people of color in positions of authority. And so I found that to be really challenging. I was the only minority on my submarine in my entire wardroom. So sometimes it felt a little lonely. There are protocols that occur when a senior and a junior person meet, salutes. And I found that I wouldn't get salutes, and people would mistake me for a lower rank because they wouldn't look at my uniform. They would look at my face and go, that guy couldn't possibly be an officer, so I don't have anything to worry about. And the weird thing about it is that it was all people. It just wasn't like white people or black people, it was everyone. So no one expected me to be where I was, and it felt really lonely. And I recall having a conversation with, I think he was a 1-star or 2-star admiral at that time. We were playing basketball together, and I said, hey Admiral, I'm experiencing this. What would you tell me? He said, hey, it's just a learning opportunity. Don't take it in a bad way. Just say, this is an opportunity for the person that you're engaging with, and say, hey, I have my devices on. I'm just wondering, why didn't you salute me? And more often than not, it would lead to an apology. But being able to sort of pinpoint why it happened in the first place, over time, at least gave me a little solace that I wasn't going crazy.
Can you tell us about a funny moment from your time in the military?
Yeah, so remember that submarine that I told you about? Okay, so there was this night that we were doing an exercise with the SEALs, tough guys that come out of nowhere, underwater, rafts, the whole 9 yards. We're on a submarine. So we're doing this exercise where we're supposed to meet up and do some secret squirrel stuff, right? So my captain at the time really, really liked pizza. Every Saturday night on the submarine is pizza night. So my captain calls me up to the control room and he says, Chop. That was my nickname on board the submarine because of the type of work that I did. He says, hey, Chop, I would like to serve pizza to the SEALs when we surface and they come up and they meet us. And I said, all right, sir. He's like, I'm not kidding. I said, I know. It was really, really tough to do. But I just knew that he wanted to do that. Okay. So that was 2 hours had passed. The executive officer and I had this agreement. Okay. When they are a half hour away, he would tell me to start cooking the pizza. Right? Guess what? He didn't. He looks down from the control room into where the galley is. He's like, Chop, Chop. And I said, yes. He says, they're here. I said, seriously? They're here? Like, you were supposed to tell me earlier.
Yeah.
They're here. And so the next thing he says, CO wants to see you in the control room. So I climb up a straight ladder in pitch dark. And he's like, so Chop, is the pizza ready? I said, no, sir. XO just told me, get the pizzas ready for the, and he just blasts me in front of the entire watch team. I go down to the galley. We struggle to make the pizza, but we get it. The funny part about that is there's a moment where the wardroom gets together and we do what's called a hail and farewell. We welcome new people and we say goodbye to old people. I think it was during my farewell that someone drew a picture of Terminator, and it was the captain, and he was terminating me because I didn't have any pizza. So that's the funny part of that story. It wasn't funny when it was happening, but as I look back on it, it's like, dude, seriously? Over pizza? Come on.
How did your service shape you as a person?
Yeah, so it really gave me a sense of self.
Yeah.
Like what I could do, right? What I was capable of. And it really developed my sense of integrity. Like who you are when no one's looking is who you really are. So
Your true colors.
your true colors, right? You can be one way with a group of people and be another way with another group of people, or when you're by yourself and you don't think anyone's looking, you can get away with something. It really gave me a sense of, no, this is who I am all the time. Do the right thing all the time. So understanding who I really was. That submarine tour duty was difficult. I didn't know if I was going to make it. Qualifying for my dolphins was the hardest thing I ever did. I cried, but I didn't give up. So that taught me not to give up, right? Integrity taught me to be right all the time, to do what's right all the time. And then it also taught me about leadership, right? When you have people that are under your charge, you mentioned inspiration earlier. People respond to inspiration, even when it means, wow, the thing that you're asking me to do is really horrible. But if you can inspire someone to do the right thing for the right reason, then that makes you a good leader.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right? Because not everything is going to be glory, right? Sometimes it's like, I need you to, go move 10 pallets of food. And maybe that person doesn't want to do it at that moment. But if that food doesn't get on board and we don't eat and people go hungry and they don't perform, and then we're at risk. And so being able to tell that story in a way, it's like, hey, buddy, I'm in this with you. And oh, by the way, if you're leading by example, come on, I'll do it with you. I got a couple of minutes. Let me help you with those cans. And so modeling the behavior that you want people to see and repeat is also very helpful. So that taught me the way to lead by example, but also expect the right thing at the right time from the people that I lead.
Is there someone that you served with that you remember fondly? And if so, can you tell me?
Yeah, so my last commanding officer at sea, Stephen Lott, is a really, really, really smart guy. And he expected a lot from his team, a lot from his officers. And he would come into the wardroom and he would actually teach us while we were eating. But it wasn't like, all right, students, we're going to have class now. He would just go about his business, eating dinner, and he would just teach us in a way that it was just, oh, I don't know what this is, but I want to know. So for example, I didn't know what this meant at the time, but now I say it all the time because I thought it was just like absolutely cool. So we're having a conversation and the CEO says, you know, I look forward to the time when I just come down to this wardroom and get to experience the dulcet tones of my wardroom team. And I was thinking, dulcet tones. I'm not going to raise my hand and ask the question of what that is, but kind of want to know. Dulcet means harmonic, you know, a sound that's decent to the ear. And so, your new vocabulary word.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Well, it seems like your job was pretty stressful. So if you have any advice you'd like to tell people that are watching, like that are going to watch.
Yeah, so stress is a reality of life, regardless of what it is you do. When I was on my submarine, I thought, or when I was a senior in college, right? I was doing a computer program for my senior project, and I thought that I would not be any more busy than I was at that moment. And then I went to the submarine, and then it was just like, I wish I was back in college because this is like, I can't even understand it. Like there are days that you don't even get sleep. So what do? You have to find moments of recharge and restoration, right? And even now at my age, I'm like, okay, how can I find out what actually recharges me and do that so that when the stress comes, it doesn't take me over. Like here in Westport, we're really close to the beach, right? So I know that going to the beach restores me. So I try to do that as often as I can so that when the stresses of life come, there's something to balance it. So find what balances you, find what restores you, and do it, because I guarantee you, stress is coming. They keep making it, so we still got to deal with it.
That's nice. Well, thank you for your participation in this project, and thank you for your service to our nation.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for saying that. I really appreciate it.
It was nice meeting you.
Yeah, same here as well.